Hey guys, Zach here with Minimal Escapes, and today I'm going to turn this algae-infested tank into an eroded riverbank, so let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to do with this tank is just clean it out. Get it completely empty, and that includes scooping out all the fish, all these minnows here, as well as getting all the hardscape out, all the algae out, and all the plants, as well as the snails out. Now this tank does look very messy, and it doesn't have a great aesthetic to it, a lot of people would say, but for me, I really think I quite love this tank just because I was going for a ecosystem river style biotope almost with this tank, and I really think I got that quite well. I have a filter on here that produces kind of a high flow. I've got algae that just kind of waves in the current or the flow that's created from the filter. I'm really happy with that, and I think I really simulated what a river is like. In most rivers there is algae, and even though some do consider it unsightly, I do quite like it in a tank like this because it does help to achieve that look of a river. So now the tank is mostly clean. You can see there's still some like marks all over the place, and that's just from scraping. It's gonna be a little smudgy. There's not much more I can do. I'm not going to be too worried about getting it super clean, just because I want to get the fish in as quick as possible, and the glass is going to be purely for visual. So as soon as I fill it up, it should get a little clearer and a little cleaner. But going forward for the scape, I'm going to kind of keep a similar kind of layout or concept. I do want to do kind of like a riverbank, but I want it to be like an eroded riverbank. So over here I'm going to have a pile up of rocks, but I'm going to have this stump piece come down, kind of start here and kind of come down to the side a little bit, and I think that'll look really good. So let me kind of get those all in and oriented. So I'm really happy with how this is looking. You can see that it's kind of making an embankment, and these roots are just going to be free floating. So what I want to do is I do want to glue down this piece of wood. So I'm just going to super glue it, and then I'm going to add in some more detailing stones, and I'm also going to add in some substrate. So first things first, let's get it glued, and then I'll catch you guys back in like 15 minutes. With the hardscape mostly done and the glue all pretty much set, there's just a couple more things that I want to do before I add in the final touches for hardscaping. The first is just going to be substrate. Before I put in sand, it's just going to be like a sand and gravel mix, and I think that'll look really good in here. I do want to add in a little bit of this. This is just some topsoil. I'm basically just going to sprinkle it around the base here, and that's going to allow me to plant more down here as well as have plants up there. And this is just because I didn't love having that amount of algae that was previously in this tank, and I want to have a little bit less so that I can step back a little bit more from this tank, and that just means I'm going to add in some more plants, but it's still going to feel like a riverbank. So let me get the substrate in. With the substrate in, all I'm going to do is just throw in a couple of these stones, just kind of out from the main body structure, and this should add a little bit more depth to the scape. I'm not too worried about their structure entirely. I might move them around a little bit before I fill it up, but I just kind of plop them down and it should look pretty natural. It's just kind of flowing down, so I'm really happy with kind of how this has turned out. So let me get it filled up and I can get to planting. So it is now 2 days since you guys have last seen this tank, and I am super happy with how this turned out. I just wanted to let things kind of settle before I really disturb the fish again, just to let them acclimate to their new setup a little bit, and I gotta say, they are doing fantastic. They're super active, they're not shy at all, and I'm really happy with how this scape turned out. So I do want to go over why I decided to go with this style of scape. Well, I am super happy with this eroded riverbank look. There were a couple things that I did want to accomplish with this one, which I feel that I have done. So in the last one I had a centralized scape that was like a flowing stream with a piece of wood right in the middle, and it kind of went both ways. That didn't leave the fish too much open room to swim in, and I did want to leave a little bit more open space for the fish this time around, and I think I've accomplished that with this look. There's lots of hiding spaces over here, but then there's also open space over here for them to free swim in. That's just because these guys are minnows, and I did see that they were very active in the old scape, and they're still super active, but they were really always just pushed up against the glass, and they only swam like right in here, really just because of the hardscape imposing on them. So I wanted to give them a little bit more open space to swim in, while also leaving some hiding spots. And that leads us into our second point about this, is I wanted to give them lots more hiding spots. In the last scape, it was the bottom was very flat, and the only hiding spot would have been in that piece of wood, but they didn't really like going in there too much. So what I've done is I've stacked up some of these rocks so they can get under there, through the tree root. They can get behind the tree root, through from over here, and they can get behind over here. And I just think that'll give them a little bit more safety, especially if I do decide to try and breed these little guys. That is pretty much everything for this video. If you guys did enjoy, please consider subscribing. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.